Nintendo has been weird as heck this year. They have been so unbelievably odd, and yet the one thing that remains, September Nintendo Directs. We did not get one in June like I really thought we would. We didn't really need one, to be honest, but it would have been nice to have one. It would have been nice to know what was coming, more information, more announcements. Back in April was our Switch 2 Direct, and we were able to get that, and that ended up being all we got until right now. The September Direct is upon us. And this is probably one of the most exciting directs we could ever have, because we know pretty much what is going to happen for the rest of this year. So if they add anything to this calendar year, it's probably going to be smaller titles or remakes, remasters, something they might want to shadow drop or just get out there within the next couple months. Nothing super big, unless they decide they want to give us information on games coming out in 2026. And if you remember, my friends, back in the Nintendo Switch generation, the very first couple years of the console's lifecycle, those September Nintendo Directs gave us plenty of announcements for the following year. A lot of them, in fact. But I also think they'll give us some stuff for the rest of this year, like Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I think this game is getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. It technically has been long enough to where they could just give us a brand new 2D Mario game. I mean, Mario Wonder came out in 2023, and I'm sure they have a bunch of wacky, random ideas that they wanted to add to this game that they just decided not to put in it. Because this game, I don't know if you know, had zero deadline. This game was just meant to be the creative renaissance for the 2D Mario. They didn't want all of these strict deadlines like they had with the new Super Mario Bros. Series, like they had every single console. They were like, all right, it's a new console, we gotta get a new Soup game out there fast. And this is so much better and so much different than that. They are going to try to do that more, I think, but I also think that this game had so many ideas, like I said earlier, that they want to incorporate more in a Switch 2 edition. I think they'll add a world or two with more levels and give us new characters, give us an updated patch for the game to where it runs at 120 frames per second and displays at 4K. I think this will be the full experience for Mario Bros. Wonder and will be the first mainline Mario game on the Nintendo Switch 2. And speaking of Mario, it is his 40th anniversary, and I do not think that we are getting a Mario-specific Direct this year like we did in his 35th anniversary, but I do think we're going to get a bunch of Mario games in this Direct to kind of commemorate that. And the biggest one that I have to share with you is Luigi's Mansion 4. I have been staunch on this position. I think Luigi's Mansion 4 is getting announced for next year. Now, I really thought at first it was going to come out this year, and it didn't, but now I think it's going to get announced this year and come out mid to early next year. We're going to get Luigi's Mansion 4. It's going to look gorgeous. It's going to be amazing, and we are all really going to be flabbergasted at not just how great this game looks, but how good the gameplay looks, because they're going to implement so many new features. They're going to build off of the third installment in a way none of us thought possible. These mansions are going to be bigger than ever. I don't know if it's going to be something similar to the hotel where it was just one big one in which they went from floor to floor to floor, or if they're going to go back to the old mansion style where it's like one mansion from Luigi's Mansion, or if they're going to do multiple mansions again like Luigi's Mansion 2, but in somewhat of a different way. I don't know. I think they're not going to go with the 2 method. I think they're really going to try to go back to either 3 or 1. That's where it worked best. I think they're going to implement several new mechanics similar to the suction shock, something similar to the burst. I think they're probably going to do something a little bit more with that one mechanic in which the flashlight is able to make invisible objects visible. I think they're going to do so many things to make this game better than ever. And of course, this is an argument that I could use for a lot of franchises because Nintendo had a long generation with the Nintendo Switch, but it has been so many years since Luigi's Mansion 3 came out in 2019, 6 years in fact, and I think next year will be the 7th year that we will finally get that game and it will break the streak. And it will also continue a very odd trend in which Nintendo is deciding to push out a bunch of random IPs on us within the first couple of years. This year, we got a bunch of Kirby. We got Kirby Air Riders, Kirby Forgotten Land. Then we got Donkey Kong instead of a 3D Mario. We got Mario Kart at launch, which was obviously a big title. But then we got games like Drag X Drive. We're still going to get Metroid Prime 4 this year, like so many niche, random franchises that I never would have thought they'd want to push out within the first year of this console. They have decided to push out, and Luigi's Mansion had such a huge success on the Nintendo Switch, and I think they're going to try to continue that and get it even bigger on the Switch too. And if you've seen my recent videos on Xenoblade Chronicles, you will probably know what I am predicting for this next one here, but I think they are going to give us a whole wave of free upgrades and a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. The first Xenoblade Chronicles game, the definitive edition on the Nintendo Switch, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will be getting respective free upgrade patches to get it up to 4K, 60 FPS, and all of the content in those games will be included, except for Xenoblade 3. I do not think that DLC is going to get included with this free upgrade because it's an upgrade. It's not a Switch 2 edition, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2 will be getting a dedicated Switch 2 edition because it is the highest selling game in the series. And not only that, it is the game that needs to be reworked the most. It needs the mechanics to be fine-tuned a little bit more. The quality of life features need to be a lot better. The tutorials need to be much, much easier to explain to us and for us to be able to comprehend. And then the graphics need just a little bit more than a simple upgrade. They don't need just a boost, they need fixed. And this is going to be interesting here because I think Xenoblade Chronicles is over. I really think if you go watch that video again, that is going to explain all of it in more detail. But I think they're going to move on, Monolith Soft will, to a new IP and produce a brand new game in the same type of genre JRPG as Xenoblade, but not with the same name. I think they're going to move on. And I don't think we're going to get that game in this direct. I think we're going to get these patches, that Switch 2 edition for Xenoblade 2, and then they're going to move on. And that's all we're going to get from Monolith Soft because they're very busy, right? They have been working on all of these first-party games for the Nintendo Switch. They're not just a studio that develops their own games. They really help everyone else with theirs because they're magicians. They know what they're doing, and they are some of the best in the industry. So that's why it makes me kind of sad that we're probably not going to get a brand new Xenoblade Chronicles game anytime soon, if at all, but the first game, second game, and third games are all going to get brand new life on the Nintendo Switch 2 with their respective upgrades for the first and third version, and the second game getting its own Switch 2 edition with the Torna content included and all of the quality of life features, better tutorials, better graphics, better everything. This game will be their driving force to see if Xenoblade Chronicles is the name they want to continue to go with, and if they decide, you know what, we wrapped up that story well enough with 3, we're going to move on, or if they want to give it another go. My next predictions for this Nintendo Direct is that Mario Kart World will be getting a bunch of DLC. They want this to be the Nintendo Switch 2 game moving forward. They want this to be the Mario Kart game for this system, similarly to how Mario Kart 8 Deluxe continued to sell and sell and sell on the Switch its entire lifespan. This is the game they want to push, and I think the only way to continue to push this game is just to continue to add content to it and add themed content to it. And this is where I'm going to have to go out on a little bit of a limb here. I don't think this is extremely likely, but let's start off with something I do think is likely. Number one, I think that we are getting new costumes for a bunch of these characters. All of them will be getting a bunch of new ones. Maybe not every single character, but we're going to get new costumes for most of them, including Donkey Kong and Pauline. They will be getting costumes to match up with the Donkey Kong Bonanza looks that they have gotten from that game. They're going to get new costumes designed after Donkey Kong Bonanza, as well as some of the other characters, right? We're probably going to get some other ones. Maybe Bowser Jr. gets a couple more. Mario gets a couple more. Maybe we'll get something like the Echo Fighters from Smash Brothers, where we do get a bunch of new characters, but it's a bunch of like NPC characters instead of like actual real characters. I could see maybe Professor Egad getting in, maybe something similar to that effect. I think we're going to get new characters, new costumes. Now, I really do think we're going to get some sort of Mario Kart World update in this Direct, and if it's just those costumes, I'm pretty confident it's going to be those costumes. But if it's only those, I wouldn't be surprised if that's it. I would not at all be surprised if it was just like a 90-second segment of them showing off new costumes and promising more for the future, and that's it. But if they do show off more, I am predicting they will, I think they're going to give us new tracks, new modes, and new options, including fixing the online. And I think at some point down the line, they will make paid DLC for this game because this game is made for DLC. It is made for more content. And I think a lot of it will be free to start off. I think the $80 price point is something that they know people were very wary of, that people were criticizing them for and just saying that it wasn't worth it. And they don't want to go back to those roots and say, you know what, we're going to charge you more for this experience. No, I think to start out, these new characters, these new costumes, even a couple more tracks, maybe 4 of them total, we are going to get all of these for free. Now, I don't know what they would do to pay in the future. Maybe it's just something like the expansion pass from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where they're going to give you a bunch of new stuff, maybe not even tracks, but just a bunch of new modes, a bunch of new other things. Like, I can't even predict what that could be, but I think that they're going to give us free stuff to start off with and then move into paid stuff later. As far as what the content looks like, costumes, characters, that's really all I'm willing to predict for right now. If they give us a bunch of new courses, that would also be cool, but I don't think we're going to see that right now, especially since they're going to focus on the free aspect of this at first. Courses feel like the kind of thing that they would want to charge you for, and I do think that that is possible. But with the Knockout Tour mode specifically, I really do think we're going to get free upgrades for that. They're going to give us more Knockout Tour tracks, more destinations, because there are so many tracks, right? There are over 30 of them in this game, and yet we only have 4 knockout modes between them, and all of these tracks could go in so many different directions. I think they need to add more. So, costumes, characters, new Knockout Tour modes, and that's it. For now, if they add more costumes or characters or even courses later on, that will probably be paid if it's on a wider scale, but for now, it's free, and for now, it's awesome. This next one is something I really hope does come to pass. I really do hope these 2 games get updates and get release dates, even if it's just some sort of quick sizzle reel or some 1-minute trailer, just something quick. I want these games to get release dates. Starting off with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This game is supposed to come out this year, and we have heard nothing about it, and yet this game has had so many demos at all of these different events. Gamescom, they have had it at PAX, they have had it at the Switch 2 presentation show-off events that they had before the Switch 2 came out. People could go and play mouse mode with this thing, and yet we don't know when it's coming out. We had that weird sign in London that went up saying the game was out now. We had some rumors saying that the developers were having really serious issues trying to get these bugs fixed out. We don't know what is happening with this game, and we have not seen a lot of it. So I really hope that it is still coming out this year. I mean, I guess we could have technically said the same thing about Kirby Air Riders, where it was like, we don't know if it's still coming, we've not heard, and then all of a sudden there was a direct for it. So with this direct now, all of a sudden there just could be an announcement for the release date, and then we just know that it is coming this year. But with this game's rocky history, with all the weird rumors, I would not be surprised if there was some sort of delay. But I am predicting, please let this be true, that Metroid Prime 4 gets a release date for December. This game will be coming out in December. Moving on to another game that I really hope we get some sort of update, some sort of release date announcement for this game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. I could not be more excited for this game. The story it has to offer, everything about it, I am hyped. This is going to be a slept-on game for sure. And I really do think that this game is going to be a lot better than people may anticipate. People are going to really not want to sleep on this game. I'm telling you, please. It's going to be great. But when is it coming out? Well, they have been very keen on that winter release date, and I think that winter date is going to be very wintry, in the middle of it. In fact, I think we're going to get it in January. But we're going to get another trailer, another good look at this game, maybe even a bit more gameplay, because we have seen some, but not a ton, right? And then we're going to get another little bit of story trailer, something else for us to break down and Zelda fans to just sink their teeth into, and then we will finally get that release date for January. The next game that I really hope and predict will be at this Direct and will have some sort of announcement, something to tell us this game is coming, and maybe even an entire blowout trailer, Splatoon Raiders. This trailer will be about 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half to 2 minutes. It's not going to give us a ton of information. I would love for it to be a blowout trailer, but I really do think it's going to be lesser of a blowout trailer because they're not going to tell us a solid release date. They're just going to say it is coming out in 2026, and that's all we're going to get. We're going to get this trailer. It's going to show us more gameplay. It's going to show us more about what this island is, about what we're going to be doing with Deep Cut, about the single-player experience that this game is. It's going to show us more about this spin-off and how it's different from the original version. Maybe it's some sort of puzzle game. I don't know. It's going to be different, and I am really excited. And I think 2026 at the very end is the little bit of information that we'll get from them in terms of when this game is coming out. No more than that. It will probably be a summer release for 2026, and that is as far as I am willing to predict. My next prediction is one that I will continue to predict until it comes true, because I believe it is going to come true because Nate the Hate said it would. Kirby Planet Robobot will be getting a remake for the Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch, and it will probably be some sort of shadow drop, if not one of those coming out in a week or two type releases. This has been a weird Kirby-filled year, and for whatever reason, it really doesn't matter. It never seems to matter how many Kirby games come out. They just continue to produce, continue to produce very solid numbers, never breaking the bank type numbers in terms of how much profit they make, but very solid, right? The continuous fans of Kirby continue to come out and just buy these games, and I think they don't care at this point, right? The Switch 2 edition of Forgotten Land has been selling very, very well for a long time now, and now it's going to come out, Planet Robobot will, and it's going to be that 2D game. We have a 3D game, a 2D game, and then Kirby Air Riders is coming out, and maybe it's weird, and maybe I don't understand it, maybe you don't understand it, but they're just going to continue to do it because HAL has been making these games. It is not Nintendo, it is HAL Studios, that weird entity that continues to be like a second party developer for Nintendo. They make all the Kirby games, and Nintendo owns that property and is able to help publish it, but they don't really make the games. I think HAL just wants to push as many Kirby games out as they can, and this is going to be another example of that. We're going to get a Switch 2 edition, a Switch 2 iteration, a port, a remake, whatever you want to call it. Kirby Planet Robobot will be playable on your Nintendo Switch 2. I also think this is the direct we get a brand new Fire Emblem game. We had a bunch of rumors back earlier this year and late last year talking about a remake with Genealogy in the Holy War or something like that, one of the first Fire Emblem games, and I predicted that, but that never came to pass, and so I think now it's just time. It is time for a brand new game because Three Houses was a massive, massive success on the Switch, and I would not be surprised at all if they had a Switch 2 edition of that game with more content, adding in the DLC, fixing those graphics because those were horrific graphics, but I think that they're going to give us a brand new installment because that game came out in 2019. Then we had Fire Emblem Engage come out in 2021. It has now been 4 years since the last Fire Emblem game. We will get a brand new one for the Switch 2. Engage was a very fun game. It was a lot of fun for the Fire Emblem core fans. It was a game that I think really that studio was trying to make sure that the Fire Emblem fans of old really appreciated this type of game. The gameplay was phenomenal, but the story left a lot to be desired, and I think they're going to try to bring that back, that Three Houses mix between the amazing story that game had and then the gameplay of Engage, bringing back the original series. I think it's going to be a combination of all those things, and it's going to look beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful game. We're going to love how it looks graphically, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to appeal to a lot of people. Whatever that style looks like is going to be just a lot more different than Three Houses was, and it's not going to appeal to as many people, but the game itself will be very similar in caliber to Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I think it's going to be one of those games that we're all like, what in the world is happening here? Like, this game looks good, right? It looks good, but why is Nintendo picking these franchises to represent their console in the first year? Well, we're not going to know that, but it's going to be another great game to add to the collection, another core Nintendo IP to keep people invested, and yet the Switch 2 will continue to sell. We will all be confused, but it will continue to sell. This is a much more niche franchise for Nintendo, and yet they will continue to push it, and it will be great. And I'm not going to belittle that. This series is going to have more life on the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't want to say new life because it had a great generation on the Switch 1, but I think it will get even more life on the Switch 2. Now, I said earlier that this is Mario's 40th anniversary, and they have gone all out last 5 years. In the 35th anniversary, they went all out. In the 30th anniversary, they gave us games. In the 25th one, they gave us games. They gave us so many different announcements and all of those anniversary hype trailers and all of those great things that they gave us. But this year, we're not going to get that, and it's going to be weird. We're going to wonder why, but this Direct, like I said, is going to be full of Mario content, and to end the show, we're going to get Super Mario Maker 3. We're going to get a bunch of new mouse controls. We're going to get brand new mechanics like the Wonder style with Mario Bros. Wonder. 2D Mario galore in this Direct, right? We're not going to get a 3D Mario, but we are getting Super Mario Maker 3. Even though Super Mario Maker 2 added a ton of options, people were still acting as though that game had a lot of problems, and I think a lot of that came down to the way you create levels. In the first game on the Wii U gamepad, you were able to make it right there with your stylus that came with the console. It was easy to drag and drop everything you wanted, but with the Switch 2, using the stick controls wasn't as fun, it wasn't as intuitive, it wasn't as easy, and a lot of these levels have potential, a lot of these tools that they give you have so much potential, but I think now with the Switch 2, with the mouse controls, this will be a lot more intuitive. You'll be able to construct levels the way you want to, like you could on the Wii U, but a lot more simple. All you got to do now is just move your controller and click like a mouse. It's very, very intuitive. That's the type of controller, that's the type of game that really sells a console, to be honest, because Metroid Prime 4 is really pushing for those mouse controls as a first-person shooter type of thing. This is a very different type of game that I think is going to appeal to a lot more people that own Nintendo Switch 2s and will have mouse controls for this game. And that will be the end of this very weird Direct that is kind of a Mario Direct, but not a Mario Direct. We're going to get a bunch of updates, a bunch of new games, a bunch of DLC, Switch 2 editions, and a bunch of upgrades, and yet people are going to be upset because this is great, right? If this all came to pass, this would be a lot of amazing games, but it's not a lot of big games, is it? Because let me tell you what games are not going to be at this Direct. We are not getting a Zelda game, a 3D or 2D one. We're not getting a brand new game for either of those. I could potentially see a Wind Waker Twilight Princess bundle, those HD remakes finally coming over to the Switch, but I doubt it. I think we're not getting any sort of Zelda content outside of Age of Imprisonment, which we already know about. I think we're not getting an Animal Crossing game. I think we're not getting a Smash Brothers game. And I think, as much as it hurts, we're not getting a 3D Mario game because Donkey Kong Bonanza is the 3D platformer of the year. Why would they give us another one? Why would they announce another 3D platformer right now? It doesn't make any sense. And that is the game I think a lot of people are really hoping to see, a lot of people are really hoping to hear, because it is probably the most realistic. With Zelda, we're not getting anything because it's not going to be this soon after Tears of the Kingdom and those Switch 2 editions that we get a brand new 3D Zelda, and we just got a 2D Zelda last year. With Animal Crossing, I think it's possible, and probably it's feasible, right? It's 5 years since New Horizons, but I just don't think they're going to announce that right now. I think that's more of an early 2026 announcement for holiday 2026 or summer 2026. That doesn't feel like something they want to tell us about right now. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I hope I am, because it was an amazing game and it launched in March of 2020, right? So that early window, they could want to try to replicate that again because it worked so well for them last time, but I just don't see it happening as much as I would love to see it happen. I don't see it. And then with Smash Brothers, I made a whole video talking about why that game is not coming until 2028 at the earliest. Go watch that if you want more context, but basically, Sakurai is not developing 2 games at once, and unless Nintendo decided to give Smash Brothers to a brand new studio, brand new director, which I really doubt, that game is not been in development and it is not coming. And I'm sure we'll get a whole bunch of third-party games as well, right? We'll probably get an Elden Ring release date confirmation, we'll get a bunch of other stuff, and we'll probably get a game with 7 in the name because that's what Switch 4 said was going to happen, and he has been right on a lot of things, so I just believe him for this cycle at least. So, that has been the video today. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Do you agree with my predictions? Do you have different ones? Or do you think that I am just crazy altogether? Let me know all that and more down in the comments below. Give me your predictions and tell me what you're most excited about for the Switch 2. Make sure you click that like button, click that subscribe button, and make sure you also consider joining my membership program to support the channel. It really does help. Make sure you click on the left side of your screen to see my Xenoblade Chronicles video talking about the future of that series. It's one of my favorite videos, so please go check it out. And click on the right side of your screen if you want to see why I think console exclusives are important and needed for the industry. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. You make sure you have yourself a phenomenal day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.